What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Jose Talks Sports. Today is a Tuesday, and to open up Tuesday's episode, I just wanted to quickly talk about the dominance that we saw on hand from the Buffalo Bills against the Tennessee Titans. This is a team that is on a rampage. You know, they're looking to avenge the losses that they've had in the playoffs these last few years. Prior to 2020, they had not won a playoff game since 1995. So to go nearly 25 years in that type of a drought, and now have the roster that they have around them, the coaching staff that they have around them, they still have Bills Mafia, of course. It's refreshing to see this team come out of the AFC East rather than the Patriots, who had been doing so for again those 25 years essentially. Josh Allen is on a tear, having completed 26 passes, 317 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns went to Stefon Diggs, who had 150 yards receiving on his own. And that connection that those two have been able to develop in such a short time, since being traded from the Minnesota Vikings to the Buffalo Bills, I think Stefon Diggs has definitely elevated himself. It also helps the fact that they are winning and they're one of the top contenders in the AFC. But to see Stefon Diggs and to see Josh Allen at the top of their game on a primetime, game slot, it was just something to behold. And on top of that, the defense itself is no scrub at all. They got a 43-yard pick six from Matt Milano that pretty much iced the game if it wasn't already iced. For the Buffalo Bills, this is a long season. This is a season that they're going to know, hey, we're one of the top contenders. We have one of the best rosters, one of the best defenses, definitely one of the best offenses in the league. How are we going to able to sustain this level of success, continue to produce the points, to produce the yardage at a rate that not only, elevates our standards, but is also sustainable throughout a 17-game season? This is only week 2. If the season were to end today, of course, the Buffalo Bills are the favorites. They've been the favorites for the last month or so. They've been the favorites maybe even since they lost the playoffs last year. But nonetheless, it is a long season, so they have to pace themselves. They have to realize, okay, we can't win the Super Bowl in the first few weeks. There's going to be injuries. There's always injuries in the NFL. You cannot tell me that there's not going to be one person hurt or feeling hurt by the end of the season. Some teams suffer from injuries a little earlier. You can look at the San Francisco 49ers with Trey Lance. You can look at other teams like Dallas Cowboys who lost Dak Prescott. Every team is going to suffer injuries. Whether the severity is, large or not, the fact is it is a physical sport. There's going to be injuries. The Buffalo Bills, though, they're firing definitely on all cylinders. As for the Tennessee Titans, a little worrisome to see how Derrick Henry's been coming out slow to start these first 2 games. Against the Buffalo Bills, he had 13 carries for 25 yards, did score a touchdown, but aside from that, not really much productivity from the run game in Tennessee. Speaking of Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill had 2 interceptions for 117 yards total passing. That would lead to his benching and then putting in Malik Willis, giving him some playing time, some well-needed experience in the NFL. He, of course, only completed 1 pass for 6 yards. Was a lot running, a lot of mobility on his end, trying to test out the wheels, I see. I'm looking forward to see how Tennessee, kind of implements him into the offense. When are they going to move into the Malik Willis era? But nonetheless, turnovers as well was such a big deal for this game. The Tennessee Titans gave up the ball 4 times. Buffalo gave it up none. And you look at the yardage. Tennessee Titans produced 187 yards on offense, while the Buffalo Bills produced 414. That's the level of dominance that they're going to need to inflict on their opponents. They need to make sure that they enforce their will on the opponents. You look at, again, the third quarter for Buffalo was huge. They scored 24 points in that third quarter, which basically ended the game in itself. For them to continue to win, they need to produce these high level of points, these high level of offense, and the defense has been suffocating for years now. This is a good defense behind Sean McDermott. But when you add a guy like Von Miller, who has the experience, who knows what he's doing, who's a champion, a 2-time champion and a Super Bowl MVP, it only adds to the level of confidence that these other athletes are going to be feeling on the field. And coming up next, Buffalo will take on Miami after a huge victory against the Baltimore Ravens after coming back, really. In the fourth quarter, they ended the game 42-38, defeating the Baltimore Ravens. Miami now takes on Buffalo, a red-hot Buffalo team. Again, I'm going to have Buffalo Bills winning this game, but who's to say Miami doesn't sneak out a win? Tua Tagovailoa has been looking good. 6 touchdown passes in the last game. A lot of yardage expended on his end. I think it's gonna be a great game. I don't think it's gonna be a high scoring game like Miami has been experiencing. I do anticipate maybe something along the lines of 35-28, not in the 40s, barely in the 30s. I do anticipate that the Buffalo Bills will win that game. But where does that leave with Tennessee? Tennessee is now 0-2 to start the year, in a year that a lot of people thought they were going to be one of the favorites, along with the Colts. 0-2 in their division, the bottom of the AFC South. Instead, the leaders of that division are the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have 1 win and 1 loss. Is it too early to say that the Tennessee Titans are among one of the most disappointing teams this season? I know it's only week 2. Obviously this is an overreaction time where, a game is played and now everyone likes to talk about what's going on. Is it early to say that they are one of the most disappointing teams so far in this season? I mean, again, you look at guys like the Colts, you look at guys like the Raiders, even the Bengals, a lot of guys that had high expectations and are still 0-2 looking for that first win. You want to talk about winning. What a segue. We go into the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings. Philadelphia and Minnesota both entering the game 1-0 apiece. Kirk Cousins on a primetime game has me worried. For some reason, the games are never the best when Kirk Cousins is on primetime. And, for this game, 27 passes completed, 221 yards. He had 1 touchdown, but 3 interceptions. And those 3 interceptions are very crucial because when you're facing a team like Philadelphia has a executed defense, but when they have the ball in hand, they are one of the best running teams in the league. I mean, you saw last season, they were the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. They have an attack not only from their running backs, but a quarterback that isn't afraid to take the ball and run. I mean, you saw it last night. Jalen Hurts, 333 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but he had 2 touchdowns from the ground, rushing the ball himself for 2 touchdowns, nearly 60 yards, taking control of the game, and really putting the Eagles on display for the NFL to see that, hey, we are legit. Not only are we going to win the division, but we want to make a push for the Super Bowl, because a lot of folks like to look at that 2017 season and they look at it as a fluke. It was a one-time thing, the Cinderella story, the underdog story. Can the Philadelphia Eagles put it together and make another run at that Lombardi? Turnovers were big. The Minnesota Vikings had 3 turnovers. 2 Philadelphia's, only 1. But also, I'm a big fan of time of possession. And you look at the way they controlled the time and they controlled the ball. The Philadelphia Eagles had the ball for 36 minutes, whereas the Vikings had it for 24 minutes. And when an offense is able to hold onto the ball for so long, not only are you elevating the momentum and the rhythm of your offense, but you're taking away from the defense of the opposition, because now they're on the floor for too long. They're expending energy, they're expending time, and it's taking the opposing offense out of the game, therefore losing their own momentum, losing their own consistency. Philadelphia, what I like from seeing from them is this is a team that can not only put up points, but they can defend the ball pretty well. The only issue was, obviously, last week they had faced the Detroit Lions, giving up 35 points to them. However, that just might have been, a one-time thing, hopefully, because when they faced a quality team, not to say the Lions aren't quality, but when they faced a team like Minnesota, coming off of a hot win against the Packers, they limited them to 7 points. Minnesota now has Detroit coming up, so that's going to be a game to see, especially because it's in division. And then Philadelphia, again, another division game for them, as they will face the Washington Commanders, which is interesting because those 2 teams had faced each other this past week, with Detroit, of course, coming out on top. But as we bring this episode to a close, we take a look at Week 3's Thursday night football game coming up. It's the Cleveland Browns taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in an AFC North divisional matchup. Both teams kind of shaky to begin with, having issues at quarterback, having questions at quarterback, but nonetheless, still a game I would enjoy to see because of the division implications. Both teams at 1-1, although they are not the favorites in their division. You look at their competition with the Cincinnati Bengals being 0-2, and the Baltimore Ravens, who are now 1-1. 3 out of the 4 teams all share the same record, 1 win, 1 loss. The Bengals, the only winless team in that division, still open for the taking by any of those teams, but this one has huge implications because it is a divisional matchup. It carries more stakes, and it would allow the first team in that division to have 2 wins. Once that game takes place, you can expect my reaction to the game as well as moving forward into Sunday's slate of games. I just wanted to thank you guys for this quick update, listening to another episode of Jose Talk Sports. As always, you can find me on social media sites at justjose_3. Be sure to follow my YouTube channel, Jose Talk Sports, where you can find my updates surrounding the NFL. And you can also find every episode of Two Beans in a Pod on this channel as well, or on Spotify. Once again, thank you for dropping by and talking sports with me. And if you enjoy these episodes, be sure to leave a like. Comment your thoughts on how your team is doing or what your predictions are going moving forward into the NFL season. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jose Talk Sports. As always, my name is Jose. This has been Jose Talk Sports, and I'll see you next time.